Well, hey everybody, Kent here. I hope you're well. I wanted to touch base with you about a couple of things. The first thing is about the message from this past weekend, and the second thing is about the message this coming weekend. So let's start with the first one. On Sunday, we talked about how difficult seasons in life are going to happen, but that's okay because with God, none of it is wasted. Now, we saw this play out in the life of a guy named Joseph. Here he was, this kid who was thrown into a pit and sold to slave traders by his brothers. Then he was bought as a slave by Potiphar. Then he was falsely accused of raping Potiphar's wife and thrown into prison, where he was just left there forgotten to die. That is, until through a series of miraculous events, Joseph actually becomes the second in command over all of Egypt. Now, you can't make this stuff up. Now, all this happens over like a 14-year period, which I'm sure was incredibly difficult for Joseph to endure, but God was with him. And what we learn from his story is that none of the bad things that happened to Joseph were wasted. In fact, God used every single one of those things to position him, to put him in a place where he could fulfill his purpose. In fact, there's this moment where he's reunited with his brothers, and he says something really interesting to them. He says, hey, what you did to me, you meant to harm me, but God meant it for good. Now listen, I know that we're going through a difficult season right now, but what I do know is that God can use it for good, and that God will use it for good. This is what Paul talks about in Romans chapter 8, where he says, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And we know that in all things, even this thing, God works for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Listen, I don't know what thing or things you're going through or have gone through, but I do know that God can and will use it for good. Now you might be wondering, Kent, why the recap of the sermon? What's that about this week? See, listen, I don't know about you, but I know that for me, sometimes I just need to hear it again. You know what I'm saying? So that was last week. Let's talk about this week. On Sunday, as part of the message, I'm going to be sharing with you what our leadership team has decided regarding reopening locations this fall. And so, man, I want to encourage you, make sure you're there. It's a really important announcement. Now, I realize that right now I'm making an announcement about an announcement. So, my bad, my apologies. But I just really want you to be there, all right? So don't miss it on Sunday. Hey, I love you guys. Remember, no matter what you're going through right now, God's at work. He'll use it for good. He can be trusted. Hang in there.